No niin, nyt ollaan varmaan suorassa lähetyksessä ja tämä on valitettavasti englanninkielinen lähetys ja mä en sitä hirveästi osaa, että mä oon tässä vähän taustalla ja meillä on vieras tässä paikalla Etelä-Afrikasta. Ja niin toi Carlos sitten ottaa haltuun tämän lähetyksen, niin mä oon tässä taustalla katselen chattia.
Joo, eli näin on. So we are switching to English right now. So like Jallu just said, we now have a special broadcast, and we have a special guest here live from South Africa. So Teddy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kali. Nice being here.
It's great to have you here. So first of all, could you tell who you are and what you do and why you do it?
Well, we are friends through, believe it or not, we're playing chess against each other from time to time. And I'm a winemaker in South Africa. I do not own a farm, but I work on farms and I work with farmers all the time. And that's my full-time occupation and career.
Yeah, and before the show, I asked you to join us because there has been this hot issue about South African farmers and basically all white peoples having some kind of, well, not so cool times nowadays. So as I told you, our channel's name is Totuuskomissio, which is translated Truth Mission. So basically, we don't believe everything we read in the newspapers. We don't believe anything we see it or hear it from reliable sources. This we did this broadcast and ask you. You're in South Africa, so you're like the best witness who can tell us about these things. And the main thing I have been reading in Finnish media or alternative media, there is like white genocide going on. How would you comment that?
Well, Kali, first of all, you're breaking up and I hear you asking about genocide. If you look at the definition of genocide, is wiping out a race group. Now, I'm not saying there's not problems in South Africa, and I'm not saying there's not murders in South Africa. My own grandmother was murdered on her farm about 20 years ago. But that said, there's no genocide happening in South Africa. I think crime is spiraling. If I say out of control is even a big word, it's not really out of control. There is a lot of crime in South Africa. Where I live in the town of Stellenbosch, we had a murder 6-8 months ago, and it hit the main headlines, and it was everybody pulled together after that and said, this cannot be. I mean, because it was such a big problem. But, you know, there's a lot of places in the world where you go, and there's also murders. I think if you go to downtown Chicago or the wrong part of Paris, probably it is not as great either.
I was told that during the last couple of years, there have been 2,000 white farmers murdered, and many other in because they are white.
Sorry, Kali, you are breaking up. I hope you can hear me clearly. What the part I heard is about 2,000 farmers being murdered. That figure sounds about more or less correct. if you take in consideration there is more or less 5 to 6 million white people living in South Africa, 2,000 people does not make it a genocide. It does, however, make it a big problem.
But if I understand correctly, murdered because they are A, white, and B, landowners.
No, I think that's a big problem. So many of the information that is spread around the world is politicized. I think the problem in South Africa, like a lot of countries like India or Pakistan or wherever you go, where there's a huge majority of really poor people, I think is opportunists who are really, first of all, disgruntled for being poor, and it's nothing to do with the land somebody owns. It's because they can get something for nothing. And if you're poor long enough, and fortunately I have never been in that position, that I've been poor for so long that I felt the need to murder somebody to get something. But if I have been, who knows what I would have done. So I can fully understand that things like this happen.
Yeah, usually get really frustrated and like it all bad and shit like that. And there, EFF made this for all that EFF leader. Shit.
Kali, I'm losing you here. I do not hear what you're saying.
We are trying to get live on this other. En mä osaa.
Nyt ei jostain syystä kyllä kuulu enää sun ääni ollenkaan, Carlos.
Just one second.
By the way, I'm hearing yellow quite clearly. Just you, I'm not hearing clearly, Kali.
Well, I changed the device.
And it works. I hear you now.
Excellent.
Nyt on ne äänet.
Now we are having problems.
No niin, nyt rupeaa toimii.
Not a problem. I can hear you clearly, by the way.
Joo, nyt toimii kyllä.
Yeah, that's why I had some computer problems, and now I switched to a phone. So now we can talk again. And what I was asking was that you say that poor people are frustrated and shit like that, but
Yes.
it was EFF, the party, left-wing party, who suggested that landowners should be taking their land away. And it was also this EFF leader, Julius Malema, who said, shoot all the birds and cut the heads of the white people. Is that kind of policy that's getting more popular in there, or is this just an individual case that doesn't matter to anything?
I think if you go to Germany and you hear the thing new Nazis are saying, you'll get the same kind of rhetoric. And I think, although it's dangerous rhetoric, it shouldn't be taken that seriously. Yes, Julius Malema is not a stupid guy, but he's a revolutionary, and he knows that the people voting for him, that's a kind of rhetoric that will win him votes, because if you're one of those who do not have anything, taking farms from white people and giving it to the poor is what you want to hear. That said, there is appropriation of land without compensation, something that will be tabled in front of government as law. So it's a change on the constitution that or amendment that is proposed, and I think it will go through, but it will not go through willy-nilly, because what we have at the moment is since our last president, who was a total idiot, and I'm on record on that he's a total idiot, we at least have a president from the same party, by the way. So I'm not saying everything has changed totally, but since Cyril Ramaphosa came into power, there is this whole feeling where radical change like this will be met with some careful consideration. So what I believe will happen is maybe there will be a change to the constitution, but it's not a willy-nilly land grab that's up for everybody. So one of the things that makes South Africa different from Zimbabwe, and everybody says, oh, South Africa is going to the route of Zimbabwe, we have a very, very strong constitution. And even with a change in the constitution, it does not mean that all whites will be chased into the sea and the land will be taken away.
You said earlier in the beginning of this thing, like your paragraph, was that it's dangerous to listen to the rhetorics of neo-Nazis in Germany. That is correct. It is dangerous speech. But in there, neo-Nazis, they are just skinheads walking on the streets. There are like not that many people. But in South Africa, a person is like a party leader who is very significant figure, so he can be heard. And if he says that kill the birds, cut the white people's heads, that's even more dangerous than in Germany some skinhead shouting on the streets of Dortmund that yeah, we should kill all the niggers. That's pretty much different, and it sounds to me that it's pretty dangerous to hear that kind of speech.
You're absolutely right. Julius Malema's party, the EFF, represent around about 20% of the population, which is a huge amount. And I'm sitting now here in my house in Stellenbosch, and the front and the back doors open as I'm speaking without somebody protecting me.
But do you have a gun?
I've got a rifle and a gun, and it's in the safe, and if somebody storms in, it will take me about 20 minutes finding the key and unlocking the safe. So the fact that I own a gun does not mean I've got direct access to it.
So basically, people are saying that South Africans are worried about their families, and they are worried when their daughters or wives go out on streets, and they are concerned about what might happen to them. But you live in a house, and allegedly you do have a family, and you have your front door open, and your gun.
Daughters.
So why are you not afraid?
Well, first of all, I think I'm in a fairly safe town compared to some other towns, but also it is all relative. When I fly to United States and I go to a city like Boston, one of the things, or to Sydney in Australia, one of the things I'm super aware of is how safe it is. There's not any burglar bars in front of the windows. There's no high walls to keep people out because it's totally safe. South Africa is not like that. There is always a slight concern But do I live in fear of my life or my family's life? No. There's not a constant fear. There's sometimes things that happen where you think, Jeebus, this is not cool. I don't want to subject my family to this situation. But it's not a constant situation where we live in fear of being killed or murdered. And even if Julius Malema do what I consider hate speech, I also understand he does it because he wants to win more votes, and he try and incite people to win more votes, and they see him as a leader who's strong and revolutionary. And one of the things you need to bear in mind, the running party in this country, the ANC, has been a revolutionary party and movement long before they came into power. So part of Africa is revolutionaries are those people who get some power eventually.
Yeah, I do understand that majority of ANC supporters, they are black, and even back in the 80s, ANC was considered a terrorist group. And was it in early 90s when apartheid ended in there? So after that, well, ANC has been in power, and from that moment on, the crimes figures of black people have been going like rocket up, and they are reaching the sky right now. There is a rape happening every 3 minutes in South Africa after the apartheid. Your former president, was it Jacob Zuma, who was totally corrupted, and all he wanted to do was to get power to him. And your current president, I can't remember his name.
Cyril Ramaphosa.
Okay, he's basically only running the rights of these old ANC communists. So, is there democracy left in South Africa?
I think there's a lot of democracy left in South Africa, and I think there's a lot of hope still for South Africa. If we look at Jacob Zuma, the previous president, yes, he was basically just a thug that ran the country for his own and for his family's benefit. The president before him, Thabo Mbeki, was not like that. He was a president who tried to run the country to the best of his ability, and so was the president before him, Nelson Mandela. And I believe the same is true for Cyril Ramaphosa. It does not mean that because the ANC is in power, that crime was shot up. What happened is 10 years of having a president like Jacob Zuma, who ran the country actually just for his own benefit. All state departments, including the police, were just laxing and didn't do anything. So if let's say we go to Finland and policing becomes ineffective for 10 years, I wonder what will happen to crime within Finland.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The people who already have in their genetic inheritance this crime thing, they start acting up because no one is stopping them. Can you say that?
Yes.
Because statistics show that among certain races, this going for the crime is more popular than among the others. Can you?
No, I don't say that. I don't think it's among certain races. I just think among poor people who's got nothing to lose. And in South Africa happen to be 95% of the poor people happen to be black. But if it was the other way around, it will still be the poor people. Poor people are more prone to crime than middle-class people. Middle-class people around the world, regardless of race, worry about the same things. They worry about proper schooling, safe housing, how are they going to replace their car in 5 years' time? How will they be able to retire? I think middle classes around the world are exactly the same.
Just this morning, I was drinking my coffee and reading morning papers, and I read this real funny story that this one of these government members there in South Africa had a solution to this poverty. Let's print money and make everybody rich. Is that hoax news, or did he actually suggest that?
I haven't read that, and I'm not surprised there's idiots like that out there, and even idiots like that part of our government. No, it's not a solution.
Yeah, it's a solution later, but do the people in South Africa, those poor people, take that kind of people seriously? Because that kind of tells that there's something wrong either with the government or the poor people in there. Do they take all that shit seriously? Sorry about my language.
You can say shit in front of me any day. I think what happens is poor people in South Africa are most of the time uneducated people as well. And yes, uneducated people, whether they're in South Africa or anywhere in the world, do take rhetoric seriously when they think it's going to benefit them. If I go to uneducated people anywhere in the world and I say to them, let's print more money and we give it to you, they will say, yeah, hell yeah, let's go for that. But it's not realistic. We know that.
Yeah, I know that, you know that, but does the majority of those poor people know that? Because
No, they don't.
we all saw what happened in Zimbabwe. I mean, they started printing money. They took the land away from white people, and well, now you have to pay like 2 billion of those Zimbabwe dollars for a slice of bread, and tomorrow it's going to be 200,000 billion trillion Zimbabwe dollars. So they don't get it. Are there any white people in the South African government?
Well, there's white people in South African government, and because it's a democracy, and it's not about the race issue. It's not the important issue in South Africa. I don't care whether I've got a white or a black president. I just want a president that look after my family's and my town's interest. Whether he's white or black is irrelevant. Same for our sport people. I don't care whether our rugby team or our cricket team or our soccer team exist of mainly white or mainly black people. We just want to win the World Cup. I think people are inherently all the same around the world. I think we just want what's best for us.
From your point of view, how does it look that your government is succeeding taking care of the rights of your safety, your family's safety? Do you think you're going to be safe if this goes on in there?
Yes, I do hope so. The last 10 years, if you asked me the same question a year ago, I would have said I'm really worried because we had a president who did not look after us. We've got a new president at the moment, and he seemed to be very serious to rooting out corruption, which is a start. and I do think the government do take our concerns regarding safety and things about local management of our town seriously. So yes, I'm very hopeful. There's no guarantees in that though. You know, we had a friend from Belgium here the other day who explained to us how absolutely unsafe Belgium has become because of all the foreigners coming in. I don't know how true that is, but I can tell you South Africa is full of foreigners because most of the African nations is going much worse with them than in South Africa, and they're storming in here, working very hard and help building our economy. So I'm anti-xenophobic, I'm anti-racism. I just think it can, we at a pretty low base, so it should go better from here. And that's what we hope for.
Well, I think I would be anti-xenophobic and anti-racist as well if if the foreigners coming to my country came here to build the country, and the people coming to Europe in general would come to build our continent, build our nation, and not do terrorist attacks. We had our first terrorist attack in here, but I guess you don't get that many Muslims in there, do you?
I live in the Western Cape where there's a big Muslim community, and we get along with the Muslims. We don't have a problem. Yes, we also had some of the Muslims being recruited from South Africa for ISIS, and we realized that as a problem. But I don't think it's a question of all Muslims in South Africa being complicit in being terrorists. I think it's a very small splinter group, and if I say very small splinter group, less than 0.1% of Muslims in South Africa, and that's a worldwide phenomenon. I think all religious groups, without exception, once they get fanatical, it's a hell of a problem, and I can't emphasize it more. Hell of a problem.
Okay, I'm just going to speak Finnish for a while and ask my assistant what's going on in our live chat. So excuse me for a moment, or you can listen, but you might not understand shit.
I'll drink wine while you do that.
Excellent, mate. That's the spirit. Mitäs meillä siellä? Ja mitenkäs Jallu, halutaanko me ottaa puheluja? Onko Jallu vielä jossain?
Mä tiedän ihan sama mulle, että
Halutaanko me ottaa puheluita? Hei chatti, kertokaa, haluaako joku soittaja kysyä pari kiperää kysymystä? Että puhelinlinjat on nyt voisi olla auki, ja toi Jallu voisi laittaa toivottavasti toi puhelinnumeron siihen chatti-ikkunaan. Joo, no, siltä ei kysytä. Okay, what I just did, I informed my homeboy that we now take calls from viewers if somebody wants to call and ask something. Now there's a question. Just 1 second. One of our viewers is asking, how much influence do white people have when the whole economy is basically in their hands, in white people's hands? So do they actually have any influence, or are the black people taking it over because white are the rich people? Do they have influence on economy? Do they get to like say about their money?
Well, I think first of all, there's a misconception. Just because one group controls most of the money, that they should be in control of everything. White South Africans are mostly in control of most of the money because there was a history of apartheid where we had more than adequate opportunity of accumulating more money than most. So you need to see it in a historical perspective. Apart from that, yes, white South Africans is a democracy where there's no color within democracy. And I'm not wealthy for one, but I'm middle class, and yes, I feel my concerns I can take to my local councillor, and it's seriously looked at, and I feel very protected and as far as my money and our livelihood is concerned. Does that answer the question?
Hopefully.
Olipa, nyt olisi puhelu.
Now we have a phone call from a viewer. Let's hear.
Hyvää iltaa, olet suorassa lähetyksessä.
No, hyvää iltaa. Ammusen Mikko Tampereelta, terve.
Morjesta.
Joo, olisi sen verran kysyttävää, mutta sen voitte tekin tietysti kysyä. Voin tehdä itsekin sen, että jos mä oikein vähän sanon sillään, että niin tuo rikollisuus on köyhyydestä niin johtuvaa. Että uskoako hän todellakin siihen? Koska eihän täällä länsimaista niin valkoihmiset köyhäkin sorru rikoksen poluille.
Niinpä.
Pystytkö sä toistamaan tuon kysymyksen englanniksi meidän live-vieraalle?
Yes, I can do.
Mitä?
Okay, say when I begin.
So Teddy, this is for you.
Yes.
Yes, did you understand correct that you said that the people in South Africa, they are making crimes because of poverty? And in Finland and in Nordic countries, the white people which are poor, they don't make crimes.
Kali, can you just repeat the question? I couldn't hear it clearly.
Sorry, I wasn't listening because I was going through my notes. So,
They are making crimes because of we have in Finland we have not noticed that because people are not making crimes more than Christians. But black people are making a lot of crimes. Certain crimes in Finland. And Muslims in particular.
I'm not sure I heard the question correctly.
I think that, but you don't understand it.
Your connection is pretty bad. Talking to the phone guy, but basically, I think what he was asking about was that Muslims and darkies do most of these crimes everywhere. So it's the same in there.
My experience is most crimes are committed by poor people, in generally because they are desperate. That said, one of our richest people in South Africa just committed heinous financial crimes. So it's not located to only poor people, but poor people has got more incentive to crime because they've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Normal middle class people in general only can lose out of crime. Therefore, you don't see a lot of crime among middle class people, but among poor people, because they have really nothing to lose, you see a disproportionate amount of crime. Does it make sense?
Joo, vastaisiko tähän kysymykseen?
Saatko vastauksen?
Ei. Because No, it because hän ilmeisesti ei halua vastata tähän asiaan.
Joo.
Kantaa hänen motiiveihinsa, mutta kiitos soitos kuitenkin.
Ja kuitenkin rikoksia tehdään, jos joku köyhän porkkanan varastaa, niin eihän se mitään, mutta ei se tosiaan todellakaan ole niin rikoksiin johtavat tyyli. No, videomaivan.
Mutta koita muistaa, että hänen maassaan yli 90% on värillisiä, joko mustia tai niin sanottuja sekamuotoja. Eli hän kokee nämä asiat tavallaan eri lailla. Että siellä, jos niinku köyhä varastaa, niin se on yli 90% todennäköisyydellä se köyhä on niinku värillinen tai musta. Muista myös hänen niinku lähtökohtaansa, että hän ei ole elänyt tämmöisessä maassa, missä me joudutaan nyt elämään.
No, mä suljen tämän puhelimen siinä.
Joo, selvä. Kiitos. Siinä oli vähän kipkusellainen kaveri.
Yeah. So what we had here, he didn't quite take your answer as the whole truth, but I tried to explain to him that you are from a country, from a different country that differs from ours in a way that in your country, most people, like more than 90% people, are non-white people, and
Yes.
and basically more than 90% of poor people are also non-white people. So in our country so far, and hopefully in the future as well, if God helps us, we do have a majority of white people here. So basically he didn't understand your point of view because you're from different cultural background.
Okay, makes sense.
Here in Finland, black people also commit most of the crimes, especially sexual crimes and violent crimes. But in our country, it's not because of the poverty or black or colored people being the majority, but it's something else. So you guys were on totally different tracks in these questions. You didn't understand each other, so do pardon him.
I wouldn't. I haven't been to Finland yet.
You went to Sweden, though.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
The black people in Finland, in general, are they poorer or are they equal in social and economic stance than the white people?
Well, I'm just thinking
In
how
general.
it doesn't sound like hate speech. Most colored people in here, they come here as asylum seekers. Nowadays we have more and more of them because so far Finland has been pure, like with Finnish people, Scandinavian people and shit like that. And so we have had a pretty good social welfare in here. So that is why these darkies are coming into our country. And now for some weird reason I can't explain or I can't even understand, they are considered as like honorary citizens and they are given everything, while poorer people like retired people, retarded people, handicapped people, people like that, they are taken away their benefits. Like they don't get their pensions anymore. They do, but smaller pensions. They don't get their medical bills paid like they did before when we were still a community in which we cared about our own people. Now, for some reason, the government is full of these Green Party or Red Party members, and they are the loud minority there. And for some reason, they are giving these Somalis and Muslim refugees everything they want. And in order to finance that shit, they are taking the money from Finnish people. So they are actually actually people standing in lines every day. Every day, thousands of people have to go get social welfare. They have to queue up in a line in order to get some food, get a loaf of bread, get a can of tuna, get something, while these honorary citizens are getting whatever they want. These asylum seekers are getting 5 warm meals a day and a free like medical benefits and medical care, and that's frustrating our poor Finnish people. But Finnish people, they take it cool. They are just like, okay, shit happens. But when these honorary citizens don't get automatically what they want, they commit crimes and tell that, well, we had to rape that woman or we had to kick the shit out of that person because of the racism. We didn't get what we want, so we did that. It's racism that caused that. So it's kind of different situation in here, if you know what I'm saying.
I hear fully what you're saying. You know, first of all, Finland sounds like a good place for me to run to if I need to leave South Africa, first of all.
Well, but I wouldn't count on that nowadays.
It seems like you look very well after asylum seekers. So first of all, it's really important for South Africa to sort out their own shit, because otherwise you might get a couple of million more South Africans also coming to Finland to be looked after. And the inverse question that automatically come up with me is the same people complaining in Finland, if they would have gone through exactly the same that the people they accusing of, how would they have turned out? Would they have turned out much better or exactly the same? It's just a question I'm wondering about.
Okay, I'm going to answer that. Lots of Finnish people did go as immigrants to foreign countries. For example, like 100 years ago, lots of Finnish people went to America to look for a new life. In there, they didn't expect to be living on Americans' expenses. They were given like a saw and an axe, and they had to build a new life. During the WW2, when Finland was attacked by Russians, we sent some of the children to Sweden to be safe. And after the war, they were returned. I'm talking about children. I'm talking about children aged 4 to 7, so actual children. But now people who are coming here, they are like having good money. They are not children. They claim to be 17 years old because they are underaged. But the age tests tested from their teeth and shit like that prove that they are 30 or 40. And they don't come here to escape the war. They just come here after better social welfare. They come here so they can live for free. They have no intention to work here. They are just like on vacation here. And if they get like a declination when they leave their asylum seeking whatever, if they are said no, well, at least we had a nice holiday in here which lasted for 3 years, and they even get go home money for like 3,000 euros, which is like 3 years salary in their own country, Syria, Afghanistan, Iran. So they come here on vacation, and while they are in here, they commit crimes because they have nothing else to do, because they don't get a job, because they are too lazy or ignorant to learn any skills, any language. They don't have to. They don't fucking care. Sorry about my French. So basically, it's totally different. We would welcome South Africans here, because you guys would be hardworking, who would actually work for our economy. You would have important skills, but honestly, it doesn't make, like these people from Middle East coming here, it doesn't make you an engineer that you can like make a hut out of camel shit. It doesn't make you a gynecologist if you can mutilate small children and cut off their clitoris.
By the sound of it, Kali,
Everybody.
by the sound of it, it sounds like I'm much better off in Stellenbosch than I would have been in Finland.
You are, because in there you just be safe. But today, when I walk out of that door, I don't know when a truck is going to crush me, because the terrorist attacks made by Muslims, by trucks, Scania trucks in general, are getting more and more common in here. And it's not funny. It's pretty sad, and it concerns me, because I don't want to make any children to this world. Not as long as like that. I don't want to see my child to live in a community where Muslims are running Sharia law is the main law, and people have to be afraid of their lives.
Meillä olisi tässä puhelu.
Now we have a phone call.
Ei mitään, oot suorassa lähetyksessä.
Okay, Geronimo here. So I wanted to, well, I have one question, but I also wanted to add to the previous question sent by the other caller. I mean, I don't think it's totally okay to correlate people being poor and they will be doing more likely crimes. I mean, that is true, but you have areas in United States where you have places which are in extreme poverty, but the crime rates are still low. Obviously, every country has its own case, but so I was reading an article in February 28th that the South African government passed a motion that 72% of the white farmland would be taken away from the white people without any compensation.
Okay, that has not been passed yet. There's a commission looking into it, and you're right. And it's a real concern for us that change to the Constitution or amendment to the Constitution is suggested. When just referring to your previous comment about poor people and poor communities within the United States, I'm convinced that the crime rate within South Africa would have been significantly lower had we effective policing. Without policing, any country in the world, and that includes Finland, I tell you the chaos that will erupt the moment you take away policing will be horrendous.
So just to follow up to the question, so based on the website I'm reading, that the motion was passed by 241 votes and 83 against. But if you say it's still a motion, I believe you. I take your word for it. But
sorry to interrupt.
In your case, because you work at vineyards, this could possibly mean that you could lose your job, I guess, if the farms would be taken away where you work right now. Would you consider something like moving away from the country? And I mean, would the economy collapse if the 72% of the farmland would be taken away from the white people? And the last question, how much of the economy is rooted on the farmlands in total, like in terms of like the GDP and all that?
Okay, three issues. First of all, the first issue, 72% vote passed is by the ruling parties, not by the government. And so all of a sudden the government is looking into that. It does not mean it's passed. So the Constitution has not been amended yet, but it will probably be amended. So, now the issue is the redistribution of land is not effective unless it can be run by people who will give food security, and we've seen that example in Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe, now that the new president has taken over in Zimbabwe, he's basically trying to invite the same farmers back to take their land back and farm the farms effectively. So we know that ineffective use of land is a disaster. In the Western Cape, where I live, is a province in the southern part of South Africa, a huge percentage of the GDP is dependent on farming. Wine farming especially makes a big part of our income, and it would be a total disaster. I'm not panicky yet, but it is a real concern. And the concern is, how will it be done? I don't think land will just be willy-nilly taken away from white farmers and given to black farmers, because it is a nonsensical thing to do. And once that starts happening, I will knock on Finland's door and see if there's a place for me.
Yeah, well, I hope for the best for you today. I hope that the situation in South Africa will get fixed. But I'm probably, we as a Finnish people would be very happy to have people like you to come here, because you guys have very good work ethic and so on. So I wish you the best, and hopefully things get resolved there and these murders and this crazy stuff will end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Wow, that was a nice call. I mean, guy had some sensible questions, and he got some answers to the questions he wanted. So that's kind of callers we want here, because sometimes when we are making this Truth Commission broadcast, we get so many weird calls. Like, people are calling like they have been sniffing glue and shit like that, and then they get an urgent need to talk to somebody, and so they call to a broadcast. So this was a nice whole broadcast has been a nice exception. Yeah, sorry, my English not very good.
Kali, and if there's any glue sniffers who wants to call in, I'll try and give a sensible answer to their questions as well.
Yeah, but as a winemaker, you would suggest people to prefer drinking wine to sniffing glue, right?
Well, I've never tried sniffing glue, and until I do that, I can't discriminate against them.
Yeah, but in Finland, running a sniff glue party is PIF. So greetings to all you glue sniffers in PIF. We have been listening to you, so now you guys listen to us. Yeah. So like Mr. Hall said here, drink wine, don't sniff glue. That's better for everybody.
Kali, I say the opposite. I just haven't tried sniffing glue yet.
No, but I like wine, so I don't think I'll change. Well, you go to South Africa one day and try your wine, and I'm sure it's delicious. It's going to be delicious. But if it totally sucks ass, then I'm going to start sniffing glue. But so far, I'm just going to drink wine instead of sniffing glue.
Absolutely. Can I ask a question? Do you see a solution for the immigrant problem in Europe or Finland, and more specifically? And do you not think the dole system, or I think it's called the dole system, the system where immigrants are automatically looked after, is a big part of the problem? Because in South Africa, what we have is we don't have a very good social system looking after the very poor. Therefore, when we get immigrants from other countries, they are basically forced to work very hard. And what we found in South Africa is, especially from the poor communities in South Africa, we get a lot of xenophobia where they hate people coming from outside, because these people work very hard and effective, and they are successful, and they are perceived of taking their jobs because they're working that hard.
Well, in Finland we had this. They were shouting this mantra out that these foreigners are coming here to take out jobs. But nowadays people don't believe that anymore, because they have seen that the immigrants don't take our jobs because they don't need to work at all. So basically, the solution would be kind of South African model if those immigrants were like, well, okay, you can live here for 3 months for free, and we will during that time we will find you a job and you can like contribute something to our country. But in here nowadays it's like you get to live here for 3 years without doing anything, and then you are given a paper that says that, well, you have been given asylum, now you don't have to work in your whole life anymore. And that's not the kind of model that works really. So I don't know what to say. Close the fucking borders. If we get those people that work hard, that are willing to work hard as a contribution to our country in order to get asylum, it would be okay. But they come here just to go to discos and they just demand their money. I mean, those people are actually being arrogant enough to tell on national TV that we don't want your food, it's bad, it's for dogs and women, we want our money, we want to buy our own food, we just want our money. And that's really frustrating, because some people in Finland don't have money to buy food. So if we got workers, that would be great, but we only get parasites.
But I think it's policy that creates parasites, because if you have a policy where you look after people regardless, you're inviting parasites.
Well, the thing is that, like 1 or 2 years ago, our prime minister actually sent a message to Middle East that he's going to give away his house. He doesn't need his house anymore because he's the prime minister, so he gets a house from the government. So he's going to donate his house to the asylum seekers. And okay, after that, a couple of thousand more asylum seekers came here because, hey, come on, our prime minister is donating his house. But then a funny thing happened, and one of these asylum seekers raped an underage girl close to this prime minister's apartment. And after that, prime minister, well, called it off and didn't give his house away. But the damage was already done, and those parasites came here. Those leeches sucking our blood, not giving anything back.
The problem is not the people. The problem is the policy inviting the people.
I totally agree with that. But the policy should be changed now before our nation. We have been like the last Western country in Europe that has had some hope. I mean, Sweden right next to us, Germany in the middle Europe, Netherlands, they have been lost. There are no-go zones in their countries. White people, the original people of Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, they have to live in fear in their own country because the foreigners come there and, well, destroy their country. That's absurd. And now the same thing is happening to Finland, and we think that, well, we only get like the better Muslims, we get the magic Muslims who know how to behave, they know how to work, they know how to thank back our community. Magic Muslims are here, so live with that. But it's not the magic Muslims here, but this country is also going to be ruined if we don't change our policy. And the South African policy sounds like pretty damn right to my ear. No, okay.
Personally, and as on a very personal note, I'm scared of any religious group, man. I think religion is the thing we need to fear most in the world.
I totally agree with you, Teddy. So, on live chat, we have some chat in there. Now I go back to speaking Finnish for a second. Excuse me. Jallu, kuulet sä mua? Jallu. Jallu.
Kuulen.
Kuulet mua? Meillä rupeaa olemaan yli tunti täynnä, että lähdetäänkö me pikkuhiljaa linjoilta? Me saatiin aika hyvää settiä tässä.
Joo, me voitais kyllä varmaan lopetella pikkuhiljaa. Niin.
Joo, okei. Mä kerron tuolle meidän vieraalle, että me lopetellaan pikkuhiljaa ja sitten jäädään tähän hangouttiin sekunniksi vielä. Okay?
Tehdään niin.
Okay, so Teddy, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
So we have been live for 65 minutes now, so we are probably going to stop this broadcast now. Everything has been said, everything has been heard, and don't go offline quite yet, because after this this show goes offline, we still stay here, you and me and Jallu, so we can talk few words. But right now, to our viewers, I would like to thank you viewers, and I would like to thank you, Teddy, so much for being on our broadcast. So thank you, Teddy.
It's only a huge pleasure, and I think more dialogue should be between different countries so that we understand better what is going on.
Excellent. Jallu, voidaan mennä offline. Kiitos katsojille.
Ei mitään, kiitoksia kaikille ja ollaan yhteyksissä. Moi.
Morjens.